This, ladies and gentlemen, is the last time. Finally, after so much fighting, they managed to corner the Demon King. Our protagonist, Kai, from the weakest class, is a dark mage. He remembers his beloved Colette and is determined to finally kill the Demon King. But suddenly, the Demon King attacks them, and one of his party members asks Kai to stop his movements. The protagonist then uses a skill called Bloodbind, and immediately the ability starts to take effect. The protagonist orders the binds to imprison the Demon King. The binds rush forward and seize him, preventing him from moving. Kai then yells for Ares to finish the blow. Ares smiles and advances, brandishing his sword. Out of nowhere, he plunges his sword into Kai, his older brother, making him vomit blood. With the strike, he manages to pierce both his brother and the Demon King. Kai, stunned, asks why his brother did that. The protagonist falls to the ground, nearly lifeless, while his brother lets out a malicious laugh and shouts that he managed to kill the Demon King, and, with that, has become the true hero. Kai turns with great difficulty and asks again why his brother did that. Ares, a stronger class hero, retorts, asking why Kai is surprised. He continues to smile uncontrollably and says that having a shitty dark mage for an older brother was disgraceful, emphasizing that Kai was too presumptuous to try to steal his glory. Johann, a high-class saint, also comments that having an evil dark mage as a companion in the best classes, even if it was a trial sent by God, was still too absurd. Kai, fallen and unable to do anything, asks what they're talking about and emphasizes that he always used his dark magic to help them. The redhead, hearing this, laughs uncontrollably. Her name is Elsa, an arcane swordswoman of ultra-rare class. She points out that Kai was really damn presumptuous and that his class is horrendous. Kai, disappointed, thinks he worked hard for the past 5 years to get there, and now he was just one step away. He begins to remember the past. When they turned 15, everyone receives a special ability from God called a class. That day, Kai received the Dark Mage class, a class specialized in dark magic, hated for having more affinity with demons than with humans, being the weakest among all dark attribute classes. It is known by everyone as a failed class. Elsa, stepping on the protagonist's head, says that despite everything, they would still treat Trash with that class as human, but his share would decrease if he came back alive, so it would be better for him to die already. Ares holds the sword, still stuck in his brother, and cruelly twists it, saying that with that, sweet Colette will be his. The protagonist screams with all the pain and hatred he was feeling. He remembers the past again, when his beloved Colette's father told them that the Dark Mage and Saint classes don't match, so the engagement would be broken off. Colette screamed, saying no, that was an exaggeration, and that she loved Kai. Her father ignored her and ordered her to say goodbye to him, as that would be the last day he would allow them to have contact. She, speechless, passed by the guards, disappointed, and began to remove her bracelet. She gave the bracelet to Kai and asked him to keep it. The two looked at each other, filled with sadness, and still holding Kai's hand, she said her final farewell. Kai felt shattered by it. Colette turned around and said that one day they would meet again, and that was a promise. Returning to the present, Ares continued laughing compulsively. He approached the protagonist and said she asked him to kill him, and so did their father. Their father was the strongest knight of the Sacred Kingdom and trained several fearless heroes. He is the head of the prestigious Austin family. Kai remembered his father saying they didn't need a filthy dark mage in the family, but if he participated in the subjugation of the Demon King, he would allow him to return to the Austin family. Kai, confused, asks about subjugating the Demon King. His father also said he would ensure that Kai rekindled the engagement with his childhood friend, Colette. Shortly after that, Colette was confined to a room in the royal palace and used to cast a large barrier to protect the sacred city. If Kai defeated the Demon King, she would be freed and they would marry, living a happy and peaceful life together. Kai remembers all the effort he put in to restore his father's trust and win Colette back. killing monsters and overcoming all challenges until he finally reached conjuring level 999. And yet, back to the present, his brother sarcastically says it's a shame. The older brother was killed by the Demon King, and the younger brother survived because he was unbeatable. As life fades from his body, Kai concludes that he was just a pawn in the hands of Ares and their father. He curses, unable to accept it all. Ares, holding the sword, says that finally, Kai won't be a bother anymore. He tells his brother to rest easy, as he will take good care of Colette so he can die in peace. The protagonist, trembling, reflects that if he had known this would happen, he would have run away with his beloved far away, without caring about others or common sense. He would have just pursued happiness. Suddenly, he remembers the bracelet and hears his beloved's voice asking him not to die. Kai laments everything, wishing he could have seen Colette one last time. On a sunny day, birds are singing at the window, and a voice appears. Kai, how long are you going to sleep? Suddenly, the protagonist wakes up. He gets up, astonished, wondering what the hell happened. He feels short of breath and starts sweating cold. Noticing that Colette is there, he becomes confused, thinking she should be imprisoned, and wonders what she is doing there. Colette asks what happened, as he looks startled and covered in sweat. The protagonist doesn't answer. He only tries to understand why he is there, and without any injuries. Suddenly, he screams, asking what is going on, and the young woman, with a sweet expression, simply replies, "Good morning, Kai." Completely confused and still sweating cold, Kai looks at his beloved, thinking that something is strange, as she should be in her 20s now, but she looks younger. Colette, with a concerned expression, comments that he's still half asleep and reminds him that today is an important day for them. She asks if he's okay. The protagonist, covering up, apologizes and says he's still a little drowsy. Suddenly, seeing his reflection in the mirror, he is shocked to realize that he too looks younger. The young woman asks him to wake up once and for all, saying with all the excitement that today is the day of the class revelation ceremony, and she's looking forward to it. While Kai remains completely astonished, he asks if the ceremony is really today. Grabbing her shoulders, he asks what year it is, leaving her startled. Getting very close to her, he desperately asks if he is not yet a dark mage, leaving the young woman speechless. The protagonist wonders if this is a dream when suddenly, Colette pushes him back and awkwardly says he was too close. Kai apologizes for that and continues pondering if this is a dream or if he has gone back in time. The protagonist raises his arm and is shocked to realize that he still has the heraldry. Colette is also astonished and asks if that is a heraldry and why he already has a class. Kai reflects that if he really went back to the past, he shouldn't have a heraldry yet, as it's only received after the class revelation ceremony. Out of nowhere, Kai asks to display status, and the status screens open, indicating class, Dark Mage, level 999, skills, none. Kai concludes that his status remained the same as before his death. Suddenly, he notices the message, status locked, second entry. He is left speechless by that. The protagonist thinks that crazy things have been happening one after the other, and that there is only one thing he understands so far. At this very moment, he is in the past. He wonders if this is some kind of magic, but quickly changes his mind, as it's beyond any existing type of magic, and no one could do something like this, not even the Demon King. However, he remembers hearing Colette's voice before losing consciousness. Suddenly, Colette calls him back to reality, asking if he's okay since he seemed lost in thought. She asks again about the heraldry. Suddenly, the bracelet starts to slip off the bed, falling to the floor with a noise. Colette notices and quickly picks it up, saying she thought she had lost it, but it was there the whole time. Kai remembers the bracelet and Colette's words when she gave him the jewel. "I promise we will meet again." Suddenly, Kai gets up, thinking that he finally understands. Looking at his beloved, he deduces that her bracelet held the power of the saint she possesses. He starts laughing to himself, leaving the young woman confused. Out of nowhere, he hugs her, saying it was all her. that now he knows what will happen and he can change the future. Colette, still confused, asks if he is a dark mage. The protagonist doesn't respond, only thinking that he can prevent Colette's imprisonment and her death. Still hugging her, he says that he will never let anyone take her from him again. The young woman widens her eyes, surprised, and asks what he is talking about. Kai realizes that she doesn't know anything and apologizes, trying to avoid explaining what's happening. Colette, slightly upset, says it's not that she didn't like it, but he hugged her so suddenly that it startled her. After all, they are engaged, so even if he wants that, Kai, embarrassed, quickly interrupts her. The young woman says it's okay. Kai, disappointed, comments that the engagement will be complicated when his family finds out he's a dark mage. Colette just listens, and he continues saying that people say dark mages are like demons. He remembers his father saying they didn't need a filthy dark mage in their house. The young woman, with a serene expression, says she doesn't see a difference between a dark mage and other classes, and emphasizes that he is still himself, after all. The protagonist, relieved, thinks that after everything, she remains the same person as always. He believes she didn't even change her attitude when she found out he was a dark mage, even with everyone hating him. Still, she extended her hand to him, and for that reason, he can't trust any other human, only his beloved. The protagonist begins to approach her, telling her not to be scared by what he's going to say. Colette, concerned, asks what happened. Kai shows his hand, explaining that he came back 5 years from the future, and now, the man before her is a level 999 dark mage. In shock, she replies, questioning him about being from the future and about that absurd level. He turns and says he will show her proof. The protagonist begins to use magic on his finger, which soon envelops the whole room, and he proclaims for the archdemon to rise from the depths. Suddenly, a giant demon appears with a terrifying roar. Colette almost faints upon seeing it and asks how that's possible. The demon continues with a frightening aura, making a horrible noise. Kai, still casting the spell, explains that level 999 dark mages can make pacts with high-level demons like archdemons. He remembers that the pact he made for the first time is still active, which shows that he will be able to use all the dark magic he learned without difficulty. The most important thing, this proves his theory was correct. Looking at Colette, he thinks they dreamed of meeting again, and the dream came true. However, he needs to hurry because there's no more time, as the class revelation ceremony is today, and the Demon King is born today. The giant demon kneels before the protagonist, leaving the young woman terrified. The demon asks Kai please to give him an order, and Kai, with his power, gives a slight smile. The protagonist, with magic at his fingertips, turns around and apologizes for scaring Colette, explaining that it was proof that he really is a level 999 dark mage. With a smile, she replies that yes, she believes him, and that she never doubted him, since he's not one to lie, but she admits that it scared her. Suddenly, Kai calls her, and taking her hands, he says that he's heard that not even 10 holy knights could defeat an archdemon. He also mentions that dark mages can't learn skills, but in return, they can master all types of magic and use many powerful spells. Colette finds it all incredible. The protagonist loses some of his excitement, and remembering his beloved in prison, he says she needs to listen carefully to what he has to say. She looks at him attentively. Kai explains that today she will receive the class of Saint, and Ares will receive the class of Hero. Excited, she says that another hero will be born in the Austin family, but the protagonist quickly interrupts, saying that this is a bad thing because if Ares becomes a hero, suddenly someone appears at the door. It's Ares himself, asking if his brother called him. The protagonist looks suspiciously at him, and both are shocked. Ares, curious, asks where the archdemon is. Kai and Colette are nervous about the situation, and as Ares approaches, the protagonist quietly asks if the archdemon has already left. He looks at the ground and notices that it's gone, while Colette remains tense. Ares asks what archdemon his brother is talking about, and questions if his brother was talking behind his back. He comments that it's pathetic for a hero candidate to talk about others. Colette, irritated, responds that Kai wasn't talking behind his back. Aries approaches her and whispers in her ear, asking why, instead of staying with Kai, she doesn't stay with him. The protagonist immediately pushes him away from her, shoving him back, and with a serious look, tells him to leave. Aries immediately starts drawing his sword, asking what will happen if he doesn't want to leave. The protagonist doesn't back down and steps forward. He gets close to the portal through which the demon is summoned, and his hand begins trembling, eager to summon it. His brother notices the trembling hand, but unable to see that he is wielding power, comments that he's trembling in fear. The two glare at each other with hatred, while Colette grows nervous about the situation. But suddenly, someone arrives asking for permission to speak. It's a servant, informing Aries that the Duke is calling him. Aries quickly turns around and, sheathing his sword, says he's on his way. The protagonist feels relieved, and Colette remains scared. Kai calls her to leave as well, and the two depart, leaving Aries alone. In another place, they feel calmer, and the young woman smiles, relieved. Meanwhile, Aries remains filled with anger. Walking through the city streets, the protagonist comments that going out into the city and seeing so many people makes him feel nostalgic. Colette responds that it must have been a long time for him. Suddenly, someone calls him Kaisama, and he, confused, remembers that in the past, people used to respectfully address him that way. A cheerful merchant thanks him for dealing with Gorotsuki the other day. Walking through the market, Kai realizes that no one here knows he's a dark mage yet. Continuing their walk, the young woman tells him that everyone here likes him because he's always worked hard. She looks at him with admiration. Upon arriving at a park, the protagonist says they need to continue their conversation, and she quickly agrees. He continues by saying that later, at the ceremony, Aries will receive the class of hero, but soon after, he will make a mistake, as all heroes do. And because of Aries, the Demon King Griselda will be born, and in just 3 days, the Sacred Kingdom will fall. Colette can't believe what she's hearing, and the protagonist emphasizes that, to be precise, the kingdom will remain, but half of the people will die, and to protect what remains of the sacred city, a great barrier will be conjured. But to maintain the protection, she will be imprisoned in the royal palace. And on top of all that, he will receive the class of Dark Mage, which will lead to his exile from the Austen family, resulting in their separation. Colette, desperate, says she doesn't want that, emphasizing that she wants to stay with him forever. The protagonist is astonished to hear that, and with a smile on his face, asks if she accepts to go with him, saying they will live together. Colette turns red as a beet, and with a trembling voice, asks if that was a marriage proposal. She runs to hug him, saying she is very happy and that they will be together forever. While embracing her, the protagonist thinks that in his first life, he was very foolish, as he should have done this from the start. With a regretful look, he realizes that he should have given her that hug a long time ago. Sometime later, Colette is already mounted on a horse, and the protagonist asks her to hide in the village of Lacus for a while, as the chaos of the war won't reach there. She must arrive at the village within 3 days. Worried, she asks if he won't go with her. The protagonist bites his lips and says he needs to stop his brother Aries and prevent the birth of the Demon King. Colette says she understands because that's what is expected of her fiancé, always doing his best to protect others. She then departs, waving her hand and saying she'll be waiting for him. Kai, smiling, says he will resolve everything there and soon meet her, and closing his eyes, he says it's a promise. But he thinks that, in truth, his fiancé is wrong because he isn't doing it for the good of everyone, but for his own good. He will save Griselda from his brother Aries before she becomes the Demon King, and start a relationship with the demons, as their help will be essential to face his future pursuers. After all, he discovered that, in reality, the battle wasn't against the Demon King. He remembers Griselda, the Demon King, furious after finally finding the enemy of her friend Sasha, while the confused hero didn't even know what he had done, leaving Griselda even more enraged. The protagonist reflects that no one would have imagined that the bringer of peace, the hero, would cause the destruction of humanity, and If he manages to save Sasha, Griselda's friend, maybe he can prevent her from becoming the Demon King. With frightening and fully concentrated power, Kai says that now his rebellion against fate will begin. Sometime later, descending a dark staircase, Ares holds a whip in his hand, saying this is the last time he will ask. With her hands chained, a woman spits blood, which was already spreading across the floor. It was Griselda, completely wounded by Ares, who commands her, kill Kai. He looks directly into her eyes and orders again that she kill Kai. The young woman, even in that situation, doesn't back down and insults him, saying she doesn't take orders from filthy scum like him. Ares then whips her once more, saying that apparently she still hasn't learned what happens when she disobeys his orders. Griselda endures the blows firmly, and noticing her shackles, realizes they are for magical restraint. She says that if it weren't for them, Ares would already be dead. Ares begins to approach her again and calmly asks what she's going to do. He looks at her with superiority and steps closer, emphasizing that she is his slave and should know her place. Extremely irritated, he orders her once again to kill Kai at that moment, emphasizing that the prophecy says the hero will arise that day, and it will probably be his bastard brother. Ares remembers Khalit and Kai together, and comments that if Kai truly becomes a hero, Khalit will definitely marry him. Angry, he shouts that it would be absurd, and that he will not allow it, leaving the young woman frightened. He continues, saying that Khalit and the hero class must belong to him. Ares starts explaining that a hero possesses overwhelming fighting power, a light attribute chosen as the strongest by God, and being special is a hero's privilege. He can enter others' homes without permission, steal, break property, and everything classified as a hero's privilege is allowed by law. Enthralled by the idea, he asks if that isn't amazing, emphasizing that no one can oppose the only existence capable of defeating the Demon King. Excited, he continues commenting that if he becomes a hero, he can take any woman he wants. Imagining the women, he salivates, saying he really wants to be the hero. He remembers his brother and shouts that if he kills Kai, he will surely receive the hero class, and that was his last chance. Griselda listens to everything and responds that there is no honor in that, and calls him filthy for only thinking about the women he could get. Enraged, Ares slaps her hard and, humiliating her, asks if she knows why he bought her. Griselda, even in pain, responds, telling him not to underestimate her, for she is a proud vampire with the blood of the Demon King running through her veins, and she will not do what he wants, even if he kills her. Ares insults her again and says he spent all his money on her. Drawing his sword, he says that in that case, he'll do as she prefers. He raises the sword, preparing to strike, and says he's going to kill her while she screams in fear. She closes her eyes, awaiting the blow, as Ares tells her to regret her choice in the afterlife. Suddenly, another girl screams, begging him to stop and pleading for her friend's life, and Griselda, crying, is surprised to see that her friend Sasha had woken up, telling her to stay quiet. Sasha insists that she won't be silent, even if it's an order from Griselda-sama. She continues, saying she'll kill Kai in Griselda's place, so Ares could free her friend. Suddenly, Ares kicks her in the head and, stepping on her, asks if she's sure she'll go in Griselda's place. Mockingly, he says she's just a low-level demon, and Kai is the prodigy of the Austin family. Sasha is terrified upon seeing the sword, and suddenly, he strikes Sasha swiftly, making her scream in pain. Griselda, desperate, cries out for her friend and calls Ares a scoundrel. Ares hears this, surprised, and gives a wicked smile. He grabs Sasha by the chin and, with disdain, asks if that maid is important to her. He starts laughing, making Griselda feel powerless. He continues, saying that demons wanting to act like humans are a joke. Ares places his sword on Sasha's neck and starts commenting that his father used to do this kind of thing a lot. He makes a small cut on the young girl's neck, leaving her friend terrified. Spreading his arms, He says he'll give her one last chance, asking her to say she will obey Arisama's orders and admit that she's trash, but will be a faithful servant of Arisama. Aris emphasizes that she only needs to repeat what he said and asks if, even as a dumb demon, she can manage that. Griselda says that it's too much humiliation, and Aris, still pointing his sword at Sasha's neck, threatens to kill her dear friend. Griselda grits her teeth in distress seeing that. Ares then raises his sword, preparing the blow, but suddenly Griselda begs him to stop, trembling with fear of losing her friend. Sasha, even in that situation, tells Griselda not to worry about her. Griselda, despite this, says she needs her friend and begins to cry. With a trembling, weak voice, she says she will obey Arisama. Sasha is shocked and says she can't humiliate herself like that she must keep her pride. Griselda is moved by hearing that and continues crying. Ares, confused by the dialogue, comments to himself that those two filthy beings are ignoring him. With his sword on his shoulder, he starts talking and, with a cold look, says, "Die!" He grabs his sword and strikes swiftly, but before the blow hits anyone, a loud noise comes from the cell bars. Ares stops his strike and, looking at the cell door, can't believe what he's seeing. A dark magic takes over the entire place, destroying the cell bars. Sasha and Griselda are terrified, looking to see what was happening. Amid the dust, only a silhouette was visible, emanating powerful magic. When the dust settles, Kai appears, looking at Griselda, who was stunned to see him and to notice the mark on his hand. Kai uses his magic and shouts for Ares to stop. Ares, with his sword raised, is confused to see his brother there. Kai then prepares a powerful punch and, with dark magic in his fist, hits Ares violently, sending him flying against the wall and coughing up blood from the impact. Griselda and Sasha are impressed by the blow, while Kai remains serious. He begins to approach, and, when near the girls, says, "Thank God I arrived in time." Ares remains on the ground, almost unconscious from the force of the punch. Griselda, in shock, asks who he is. Kai notices her pointed ears and says that she's probably Griselda, asking if a little girl like her would really become the Demon King. Griselda, confused, wonders about this Demon King and asks what he's talking about. Looking at the other young woman, Kai asks if she, then, is Sasha. The young woman, nearly fainting, calls out for Griselda. The protagonist, seeing that, wonders how his brother could have done such a disgusting act. Griselda, still not understanding anything, asks Kai how he knows their names, but Kai immediately asks her to wait a bit. He raises his hand and proclaims a black healing magic. He casts the magic on Sasha, who immediately begins to heal. She closes her eyes, feeling the relief of the healing in her wounds. Griselda, in shock, exclaims that he healed all her wounds at once, and Kai, focused, says that he will also heal her wounds. Looking at her, Kai thinks that Griselda has always been his enemy, but the girl in front of him now is not the same Demon King who killed thousands of innocents. She's just a poor little girl who was made a slave. The protagonist then casts his healing magic on her, and she immediately begins to heal completely. Kai then casts the spell, Break Bonds, and all the shackles start to crumble. Griselda is astonished, as all her wounds have healed, and even the slavery magic had disappeared. Touching her face, she wonders how that was possible in just an instant. Soon, the two girls embrace, relieved to have escaped that situation, and, crying, the two shout that they are finally free. Kai watches with relief and thinks that everything is finally okay. Sasha, still very emotional and crying, comments that when her territory was taken by Elsa, the demon hunter, she thought it was the end of everything. Kai hears this and turns, asking about Elsa and if she's a red-haired arcane swordswoman. Griselda, irritated, asks if he knows Elsa, and the protagonist responds that yes, he knows her very well. The two become furious hearing that, and Sasha immediately asks if he is an ally of Elsa. Kai, also irritated, shouts that he most certainly is not. He starts explaining that Elsa invaded demon territory to destroy them with an army of adventurers, and her purpose was always money. She made a fortune kidnapping and selling demons, and since the victims were all demons, humans always supported her. And thanks to her fame and skill, she joined the heroes group at only 17 years old. Kai, still irritated, says that just thinking about being her ally makes him want to vomit. Griselda remains suspicious, looking seriously at the protagonist, but says she still has to thank him, as he is her savior and will have her sincere gratitude. She asks for his name, and he promptly says his name is Kai Austin. Griselda says she now understands, so he is Ari's brother. She asks if Kai isn't a hero candidate and why he is helping demons. Kai ignores the question and asks if she would accept a partnership. Griselda is intrigued by the question. Kai, lowering his head and showing the mark on his hand, says there's no place for him in human society anymore. Griselda is astonished to see the mark and points out that it's the black heraldry, affirming that he's a black mage. Sasha says she now understands why he can use black magic, but still suspicious, says it's strange. She recalls all the spells he used and comments that he can cast 2 high-level spells simultaneously, something that can't be achieved at his age. Griselda agrees, saying he's still suspicious, but he did save them. The protagonist, lost in thought, ponders his brother's actions. Sasha, with a suspicious look, calls her friend. Griselda, determined, says it doesn't matter, she trusts him. Sasha then starts telling the protagonist that Ares wanted to kill him to get the hero class. Kai is shocked to hear that, and, looking at Ares, who was still battered from the punch, wonders why he's been trying to kill him all this time. Griselda proudly says that obviously she refused to obey Ares' orders, as true demons wouldn't participate in such filthy acts, and her friend Sasha applauds her for her beautiful words. She laughs, proud of her friend, who gets embarrassed. Griselda continues, saying that if Kai hadn't shown up, she would have lost a very important friend. Kai remembers the Demon King and thinks he'll never forgive his brother and that he has finally found Sasha's enemy. He looks to the side and sees the cheerful girls. Kai realizes he finally understands everything because, in the other timeline, Ares killed Sasha and Griselda fell into despair, developing hatred against humanity, which led her to kill thousands of innocents. Standing in front of his brother, who is now on the verge of unconsciousness, Kai points out that it was all that scoundrel's fault. He looks at his brother, still sleeping like a baby, and begins casting a spell, thinking it's better to kill him now. He remembers the scene of his brother stabbing him in the back and telling him to stop being a nuisance, calling him trash, and laughing as he said he had a useless black mage as an older brother. Kai grows furious, recalling all of that. He also remembers his brother from when they were children, competing with him for Khalid's affection, while she innocently smiled. The protagonist thinks that if he kills Ares like this, his beloved will surely be disappointed. Suddenly, Griselda calls out to him, asking what he's doing. Kai closes his eyes and starts analyzing the situation, leaving Griselda intrigued. The three stand there in front of Ares, and suddenly the protagonist hits his own forehead, invoking a spell which confuses Griselda. Suddenly, a creature forms on the protagonist's forehead, and the creature starts moving, and out of nowhere enters Ares' mouth. Griselda and Sasha are astonished by this, and Sasha screams that the thing went into his mouth. Griselda asks if it was a curse, and the protagonist replies that she hit the nail on the head. Soon, the curse begins to take over Ares, and his face starts changing color. Griselda, curious, asks what kind of curse Kai used. Kai just watches his brother, who remains still, and says it's a curse that will turn his life into a living hell. Sasha asks about turning Ares' life into hell, and the protagonist quickly replies that she'll understand soon enough. The curse continues to take over Ares, and Griselda approaches him to get a closer look. She is impressed by the curse and says it is splendid. Sasha, a bit nervous, comments that not even demons have mastered that kind of dark magic, and that this Kai is becoming more and more suspicious. Kai feels a bit awkward and starts sweating, unable to explain himself. Suddenly, he begins to notice the girls, and when he sees Griselda's short dress and the low neckline of Sasha's large chest, he blushes and says they need some clothes. Both of them get embarrassed and start turning red as well. Kai then proclaims a dark magic called Wallach's wardrobe, and a sort of portal appears. Kai puts his hand inside and says there should be something for them to wear. He then pulls out some clothes and, showing them to the girls, says it would be better if they changed somewhere else. The two then start going upstairs. Once in a room, Griselda, with her arms raised, tells Sasha she can dress herself, and Sasha asks Kai to please wait in another room. The protagonist feels embarrassed and tells them to relax, as he won't look at anything. He turns his back and starts thinking that it's almost noon, and soon his brother will receive the hero class, and all the damage he's taken will be completely healed thanks to the hero class, except for the curse he cast. Kai begins to walk, thinking that the real problem will actually be the sacred sword. Soon, Griselda calls him, and he promptly looks. She is delighted with the dress and feels great wearing it. Gratefully, she says it's the first time she's worn something like that, and Kai, smiling, responds that she looks beautiful. She immediately blushes and shyly thanks him for the compliment. Sasha soon appears and, disappointed, says she can't believe Kai made Griselda wear a maid's outfit. Griselda, on the other hand, excited, says that Sasha looks beautiful in the dress too, and Sasha thanks her. The protagonist interrupts the two, asking if they could give him a moment of their attention. They both promptly look at him attentively, and he says he has something he needs to explain to them. They sit down, and after the protagonist explains everything, Griselda is shocked and asks if it's true, all that he said about coming from 5 years in the future, and that she was the Demon King. Kai explains that it wasn't just that, and continues saying that he was killed by his brother in the future and betrayed by the hero's group. Completely nervous as he recalls it, the protagonist says that's why he doesn't trust the hero or any humans anymore. Sasha, remembering the healing magic she received, says that now she understands why he has those magical abilities. With a serious expression, she continues, saying that the fact that Griselda turned into the Demon King is quite credible. Griselda turns to her, surprised to hear that. With a confident smile, Griselda says that if Kai were trying to trap them, he probably would have come up with a better lie, and besides, he saved them in the first place. Kai feels embarrassed by this, and Griselda continues, asking what he's going to do now. With determination in his eyes, Kai says that now he will destroy Elsa. Griselda is astonished to hear this, and quickly asks if it's true. She begins to explain that Elsa enslaved her people and is stealing the valuable resources from her territory, and lowering her head, she continues saying that, at that very moment, her people are suffering. Kai places his hand on his chest and firmly says he will reclaim that territory. Griselda's eyes shine at this, and she asks if he can really save her people. Kai simply nods in agreement. She starts crying with relief and, barely able to speak, says she's so happy because she will be able to honor her late father. Sasha, also crying, agrees with her friend. Kai, with clenched fists, asks if, in return, they can allow him and Khalid to live there, explaining that Khalid is his fiancé. Griselda appears somewhat disappointed and comments that now she understands what he meant when he asked for a partnership, adding that if it's just that, they can live there peacefully. Kai mentions that Khalid will receive the Saint class today. Griselda can't believe what she hears and responds that if he runs off with the Saint, the Sacred Kingdom will send an army after him. Kai retorts that he will handle it alone, and, in the future, if the Sacred Kingdom attacks them, he will... Suddenly, the ground begins to shake intensely. Kai quickly realizes what's happening, and out of nowhere, the house they were in starts collapsing, with debris flying everywhere. But Kai swiftly grabs the two young women and runs out before they're hit. After reaching a safe distance, he stops and looks back. The two girls, in shock, ask how he got them out so fast. Suddenly, someone begins to emerge from the flames, and the fire spreads all over the place. Kai says the time has come and asks them to stay behind him. Griselda is terrified by the situation, while Sasha holds her, trying to calm her down. Griselda, scared, asks if he was really that fast. The house quickly becomes just a pile of burning rubble, and from the midst of the flames, someone emerges with a horrifying smile. It's Ares, laughing uncontrollably, asking how Kai is doing. Kai remains serious, determined, and as he starts to prepare his magic, he greets his brother. Ares, still smiling, says his brother seems angry, but suddenly he notices the heraldry on Kai's hand and is stunned. Looking closely at the mark, he asks if he really is a black mage, and showing his own heraldry to Kai, says it's a shame. The hero candidate Kai ended up with the worst class possible, and, proudly displaying his heraldry, Ares says he received the hero class. The protagonist begins to think that this heraldry and the vital resurrection ability completely healed Ares. Ares, grinning, says he's beaten his brother, and now it's his time to shine. Griselda, outraged, says that it's unacceptable for trash like Ares to be the hero. Ares, the messenger of chaos, comments that his brother knocked him down earlier, and now he's going to return the favor. Displaying his heraldry again, he says he didn't expect to receive it. Ares then proclaims, summoning the sacred sword Durandal, and a giant lightning bolt appears in the sky, striking right on him. Ares then reveals his sword, which is enormous and powerful. He says that it is the hero's sword, proof of his worthiness. The protagonist just watches silently. The girls are in shock at the sight of the sword, and Sasha comments that she can feel an overwhelming amount of magic emanating from it, while Griselda says that perhaps even Kai isn't a match for that sacred sword. The protagonist is furious upon realizing that the sword, Durandal, is the same sacred sword that killed him in his previous life. Ares, still laughing, says that Kai can start crying and begging for forgiveness, but Kai, calmly, points out that his brother is pointing a sword at him. Ares asks if he still hasn't realized the difference between them, a black mage and a hero, and, pointing his sword, he says that no one can defeat the all-powerful sacred sword. He tells Kai to repent for challenging the absolute representative of justice, the hero. The protagonist then begins to walk toward him, telling Ares to stop the nonsense and get ready for a fight. With a fiery look in his eyes, he exclaims that he's going to show Ares what hell really is. Ares is astonished to hear that from a mere dark mage. Kai then looks at him and nods, calling his brother to the fight. Confident, he says he will break that sacred sword that Ares is so proud of, and that when he loses to a dark mage, he won't even be able to show his face in public. Ares wastes no time and exclaims that his brother really wants to die. He advances quickly, sword in hand. He attempts a strike, which is easily dodged by Kai. As he dodges, the protagonist concludes that the sword indeed possesses a lot of magic. Ares continues to attack relentlessly, while the protagonist calmly dodges, thinking that despite all the power of the sword, it is a waste with Ares' weak fencing skills. Ares then stops attacking, exhausted, while the protagonist calmly approaches him. The hero wonders why Kai only dodges and does not counterattack. While reflecting, the protagonist realizes that even though his brother is the hero, in the end, he is still at level 1. Suddenly, the protagonist hears a notification sound, and while dodging another attack, a notification alerts him that he received a hidden class in his past life called Black Star. Kai is dumbfounded by this and wonders what that hidden class is. Suddenly, Ares comes flying to attack Kai, who is distracted reading about his hidden class. The notification says that this is a special class available only to those who mastered the Dark Mage class in a life, and the Black Star class allows him to learn all dark attribute skills. Kai continues to read calmly, while his brother persistently tries to strike. The system says that if Ares commits evil acts, he will earn evil points to exchange for skills. The protagonist then realizes that he needs to be evil to get the skills. Suddenly, another notification appears, congratulating him, which surprises Kai. The system says he committed a wonderful evil act and will receive 1,000 evil points. Kai doesn't understand why he received the points, as he doesn't remember doing anything malicious. The system explains that he helped demons and turned against the hero. Dodging another blow, Kai understands why he received the points and says he's okay with that. The system then announces that it will show the currently available skills to compare. In the skill menu, summoning the demonic sword costs 1,000 points, Deathbearer costs 500, Shadow Clone 300, Dark Mind 100, Wave of Darkness 100 points, Blood Violence also costs 100, and Life Absorption also 100. Kai is amazed at the options and doesn't think twice. He uses the summoning of the demonic sword. The system alerts him that he spent 1,000 points to acquire the skill. Throughout all this, Ares was still trying to hit Kai, and annoyed, he asked the protagonist to look at him. Kai replies that he is too slow, and thus it will be difficult to hit him. Ares, even more irritated, calls him cursed. Suddenly, the mark on Kai's hand begins to emit a dark energy, and he summons the demonic sword, Tilfing, causing the ground to tremble and begin to open. Out of nowhere, a sword emerges from the crack in the ground with an absurd dark energy, leaving Ares in shock. The protagonist picks up the sword and reflects that now he understands why that sword is the favorite of the Demon King Griselda. He remembers that that sword scales the user's attack based on his dark magic, being the perfect weapon for him, who is a dark mage at level 999. Ares, frightened by all that power in front of him, with a trembling voice, asks what evil sword that was. Kai lifts his sword and looks at it closely, realizing it is absorbing his magic. The sword begins to emit a terrifying magic, and the protagonist concludes that this sword is indeed greedy. Griselda and Sasha are in shock watching this, and Griselda says that it is certainly the demonic sword of her father. Ares, scared out of his wits, wonders about that demonic sword. Kai then moves his sword from side to side quickly, leaving Ares even more confused. He, smiling, asks what the protagonist is trying to attack. With just that movement, Kai cut absolutely everything in the path of his sword, and Ares, turning around, notices that everything behind him has been destroyed. Kai, looking at the sword, says he still doesn't know how to control all its strength. Ares, astonished by all that power, begins to scream, asking what that was and what ability it was. The protagonist, looking attentively at the sword, thinks that, in fact, the sword is converting his magic into destructive power. Out of nowhere, Ares, who is scared, begins to laugh, and chuckling, says that Kai had scared him for a moment. He asks if Kai had forgotten the strength of the attributes. He explains that the attribute of the sacred sword is light, and of the demonic sword is darkness, and when a light attribute fights against darkness, its power doubles. Ares then prepares for combat and, pointing his sword, says that there is the proof as the light attribute of his sword, Durandal, is becoming increasingly intense. Kai thinks that the sacred sword is really very powerful. Ares, confident, says he will show his brother the true power of the sacred sword. The sacred sword emits a thunderous energy, shining intensely. Kai is not intimidated and calls his brother to the fight. Ares, furious, yells for his brother to die and launches the attack using the final cut skill. Suddenly, a huge energy begins to move towards the protagonist. Sasha covers her eyes with the intensity of the glow, while Griselda is astonished by the gigantic amount of magical power and asks Kai to dodge it. The energy comes inches from Kai, and only a huge explosion is seen. When the dust settles, only the damage on the ground is seen, leaving Sasha and Griselda apprehensive about Kai. Ares sighs in relief and starts to laugh, saying that not even a piece of his brother remains to tell the story. He continues saying that from today on, this will be his era and everything will be his. Money, status, honor, and everything else. Licking his lips, he says that the women will also be his, including the wonderful Colette. Griselda falls to her knees, shaken, saying that Kai cannot have died like that. Ares looks at her and says that, by the way, they should be running at that moment. Sasha also kneels and hugs her friend, while Aries says that now it's their turn. Suddenly, Kai appears out of nowhere, thinking he was waiting for that moment. With blood in his eyes, he asks if his brother really thought he had already won. Aries almost has a heart attack, unable to believe what he is seeing. The protagonist looks at the sword, Duraldal, and reflects that normally a demonic sword wouldn't even scratch the sacred sword. But after using the final cut, the sacred sword temporarily loses its magic. He remembers having witnessed Ares frustrated with the weakness of the sacred sword several times in his past life. Kai then wastes no time and charges, saying that it's time for the hero's sword to disappear from the world. He strikes with great force, contemplating that he must be able to destroy that sword. Ares manages to block the strike, but with the impact, his sword begins to crack and breaks. Ares, flying with the impact of the blow, wonders how that was possible. He then falls to the ground so hard that he spits blood with the blow. Kai takes a deep breath and says that now he understands why it is called a demonic sword, as the amount of magic it consumes is absurd, and with that, he can only use it for a maximum of 15 minutes. The protagonist reflects that if he had used it at level 1, he would have killed himself instantly. He realizes that the hidden class Black Star he gained in this second life will be quite problematic. Suddenly, a notification sounds, and the system congratulates him for having destroyed the sacred sword and defeated the hero. The system alerts that he will receive 3,000 evil points. The two girls feel relieved with Kai's victory. Griselda screams happily that he is alive and has managed to defeat that guy. The protagonist looks at them and smiles, picking up his sword. The three go to where Ares, who remains motionless lying on the ground, and Kai comments that he is still breathing. Griselda looks confused at the hero and asks if he will not wake up anytime soon. She thinks they don't need to worry, as his vital revitalization can only be used once a day. Suddenly, the curse that Kai had placed on his brother begins to activate. Griselda, excited, screams, warning the others. The curse starts to approach the hero's mark, and the protagonist explains that every time Ares tries to hurt someone, the curse will transform the heraldry of light into heraldry of darkness. As the curse transforms the mark, Kai continues explaining that the heraldry of light is proof of a hero, and it requires honor and glory, the opposite of the heraldry of darkness. In that scene of destruction, the protagonist says that from now on, Ares will be known as a false hero, and this will also be the ruin of the Austen family's reputation. He emphasizes that this is his revenge against Ares and his father, and also against those who took his life. And with that curse and the destruction of the sacred sword, the hero Ares dies there. The day begins to dawn, and Kai comments that soon that place will become busy. Out of nowhere, Griselda approaches him, calling him Kai-sama. The protagonist is confused about the sama, and Griselda says that now that he has destroyed the sacred sword and defeated the hero, no one can deny it. With a determined look, she says that Kai-sama is the hero of the demons, the new demon king, leaving the protagonist startled by those words. At the same time, in a calm field, Colette's horse stops to drink water, while she wonders what Kai must be doing. A small demon responds, saying that she doesn't need to worry, as he must be preventing the birth of the demon king. Colette says she just hopes he doesn't get hurt, and the demon emphasizes that no one in this world is a match for Kai-sama. With the demon in her lap, she calls him Archdemon San, and says he's right. She comments that she was surprised when she saw that he could get so tiny. The small demon begins to fly, and explains that that form is just a disguise, and he can definitely protect her fully. Colette, enchanted, says that his wings are very cute. San suddenly notices people coming down the road, and says that they are the holy knights from the capital, so they must hide. Colette asks why, and the demon explains that upon noticing that the most powerful saint has disappeared, they must have sent knights to look for her. Concerned, she says she understands. Colette lowers her head, asking in her thoughts for Kai to hurry. Meanwhile, Griselda was calling Kai the Demon King, which leaves him speechless. Astonished, Kai asks if he is the Demon King, which she promptly confirms. The protagonist pushes the young woman away, asking her to calm down, and explains that just because he can use the demonic sword doesn't mean he is the new Demon King. Griselda asks what he was talking about, and with eyes shining fascinated, she says that the invocation of the demonic sword is a skill reserved only for those with the class of Demon King, and that was proof that cannot be denied. Sasha, seriously, confirms and emphasizes that he was able to destroy the sacred sword and defeat the hero, which are feats that only the all-powerful Demon King can accomplish, and therefore, Kai-sama has earned the right to receive the title of the most powerful Demon King in history. Kai looks at the young women in front of him and reflects that now he has a problem, as apparently both think he is the Demon King. Kai starts to reflect on the matter and thinks that, in fact, the demons would accept him more easily this way. He thinks that this is a good idea. Griselda interrupts his thoughts, exclaiming that now that they know he is the Demon King, there's one thing left to do: sign a demonic subordination pact. The protagonist remains silent, looking like he didn't understand a word, and Griselda questions if he doesn't know what that means. She explains that the subordination pact is a special ability of the Demon King, and those who adhere to the pact gain special classes from the Demon King and have their power immensely increased. She continues saying that, in exchange, the demons swear absolute loyalty to the Demon King. Kai exclaims open status, and 3 screens appear in front of him. Looking at the screens, he says that apparently he doesn't have that subordination ability. Tinkering with the system, he notices that the abilities he can purchase have increased, and he finally finds the demonic subordination pact, with the condition for its use being the destruction of the hero's sword, which he has already accomplished in the previous battle. Kai then looks at the new classes that this pact can grant. The first class is that of a Demon Captain, which increases attack power by 20% and can provide 1 ability. The Demon Captain class can only be given to 16 people. The second class is that of a Demon General, which increases all stats by 50% and can provide 2 abilities. This class can be given to 8 people. The third class is called 4 Celestial Kings. It increases all stats by 100% and can provide 3 abilities, but this class can only be given to 4 people. Kai thinks that he finally understood why the leader of the Demon King's army had such extraordinary strength. It was all because of the subordination pact. Other system screens appear, and one of them says that as a result of the signing of the subordination pact between the 2 parties, the class will be transferred. The class can also be removed if the pact is destroyed. The system also makes a note that death will come to those who rebel against the Demon King. Kai becomes apprehensive after reading about this death for traitors and asks if that pact is really serious. Griselda responds affirmatively and says she will swear loyalty to the new Demon King, as that was her father's will. She opens her arms, contemplating that Kai is a good person and that she has no doubts about it. Kai closes his eyes, saying he understands. Determined, he asks if they agree. The 2 young women kneel, saying it would be an honor. Kai then makes the pact and, showing the symbol of the general class, tells Sasha that he will give her that class. Sasha becomes apprehensive and asks if he is sure. Griselda promptly touches her shoulder, saying that this is good. She explains that demon generals are not chosen just for their battle power, but also for loyalty, making it perfect for her. Sasha, however, is unsure about this and remains tense. The protagonist then asks if she accepts. She closes her eyes and, firmly, pleads for Kai-sama to grant her the glory of being a demon general, and she will give him her absolute loyalty. Kai then says, so be it. He extends his hand, transferring the demon general class to her. Soon, the mark begins to appear on her hand, and an immense power begins to take over her entire body, making her say she is overflowing. Griselda is impressed with so much power emanating from her friend. Kai is also amazed and thinks it's incredible that with that, she has become a demon general. Griselda, with a determined look, asks the protagonist to also give her strength to protect the demons and grant her the glorious Celestial King class, swearing loyalty to him. The protagonist looks at the young woman kneeling with that focused gaze and thinks that Griselda is different, for even if he does not give her a class, she certainly has the potential to become a demon king, and he can expect great deeds from her. Looking at his hand, he reflects that he never imagined that he would make a subordination pact with the Demon King one day. He then extends his hand over Griselda's head and proclaims that he gives her the Celestial King class. Suddenly, a terrifyingly huge dark energy forms, visible from afar. Kai and Sasha are stunned watching it, making Kai feel a chill. Griselda's entire body is taken over by an absurd magic, filling the environment with so much power, causing the young woman to tremble. Sasha then shouts for her friend, worried, but Griselda jumps for joy, saying they did it, and now part of the great power of Kai-sama is inside her, making her one of the 4 Celestial Kings. The protagonist just observes admiringly, thinking that this is expected of the Demon King Griselda. Sasha gets excited and congratulates her friend, who responds proudly that they managed to escape the hero and even became servants of Kai-sama. Sasha seems a bit upset and comments that she also hopes to be useful. Griselda promptly shouts that yes, and stresses that they will become even more powerful and will build a new world of demons with the protagonist. Kai watches the scene and concludes relieved that he managed to defeat Ares, and now the Demon King is his companion. Suddenly, he notices something. A troop was approaching in his direction, and at the forefront was his father with a furious look. Drawing his sword, he asks his son to explain the whole situation. Completely distraught, he continues asking what Ares is doing on the ground and what he is doing with those demons. Quickly steps forward, and Griselda comments that that man has a firm stance. She asks who he is, and Ares answers that he is the commander of the Order of Holy Knights, his father. Without wasting time, the knights go up to Ares, who is lying on the ground, and one of them checks his breathing, soon affirming that Ares is breathing. Kai's father, still maintaining a battle stance, points out that the protagonist did not appear at the class revelation ceremony and asks what he was doing. With a mocking smile, Kai replies that he became a dark mage. His father is taken aback by this and quickly retorts that he was supposed to be a hero. The protagonist shows the heraldry on his hand and declares that from now on, he will be striving to be a demon king. His father is terrified by those words and begins to shout, saying, "That is the black heraldry." He asks if he really became a dark mage. Astonished, he emphasizes to Kai not to joke about becoming a demon king. Out of control, he yells, asking if Kai has lost the justice that was in his heart, as he was the pride of the Austin family. The protagonist clenches his fist and, remembering the deeds of his brother Ares, responds that he has witnessed the justice of the Austin family more times than he would like, which includes tortures and threats, in addition to the fact that they hid the birth of the Demon King. Kai remembers the harsh words of his father and continues saying that he had expelled his own son from home and commanded his death, and that is the justice of the Austin family. With determination in his voice, Kai affirms that if that is being just, he prefers to be evil. The patriarch responds that Kai has been corrupted by that filthy class and that he will not escape unpunished. Kai is undaunted and says that his father does not need to worry, as he and the Austin family will no longer be of any use. He then snaps his fingers and exclaims, "Expel." Suddenly, flames appear everywhere behind the knights, leaving them terrified. Geese quickly turns around and sees flames consuming everything around him. He asks what kind of magic this is, and his subordinates inform him that the situation is dire, as the area surrounding the mansion is being ravaged by fire. A citizen yells that the flames are spreading fast and begins to flee, warning that the stable is also ablaze. The man turns to the protagonist and demands to know what the hell he did. Griselda questions Kai about when he prepared all of this, and he explains that he did it while searching for them. He details that he made sure to prepare the fire, ensuring that no one would be trapped by the flames. Suddenly, the system congratulates him for setting his parents' house on fire, commenting that it was a magnificent evil act and rewards him with 500 points. Kai thinks he got lucky, as he hadn't expected that, and concludes that the system aligns well with vengeance. The protagonist then acquires the skill Dark Attribute Reinforcement. With each level up, his dark power will increase by 1%. Kai's father, still furious, asks how he could have done such a thing. Kai promptly responds that the Austin family must be destroyed. With his gaze fixed on his father, he declares that this is his form of justice. Enraged, Geese calls him a bastard and orders his subordinates to kill Kai, saying that this monster is no longer his son. The soldiers, armed with spears, quickly surround Kai. They start attacking the protagonist, who cuts through them as if they were nothing, leaving only a trail behind. He looks back and orders the soldiers to sleep. Suddenly, his father charges at him with hatred in his eyes and sword in hand. He shouts at Kai not to get cocky, as those were just disposable pawns. Kai quickly summons his sword, Thilfing, and challenges his father to a fight. The sword materializes in the protagonist's hand, and the two clash their blades, bravely testing their strength. Geese is astonished by the power of his son's sword, while Kai remains steadfast. Suddenly, his father pulls his sword back, but as he prepares a new strike, he realizes Kai is already poised for another attack. Kai strikes fiercely with his sword, brutally severing his father's arm. The man, in disbelief, screams as he sees his arm fall to the ground. He collapses, while one of his knights runs to him, concerned, holding the commander's sword. Geese wonders if the sword wielded by his son is truly the demon sword, and contemplates that his son has abandoned any trace of humanity. The man then grabs the sword with his other hand and drives it into the ground, attempting to use knightly healing, claiming this skill would restore his arm. However, he soon realizes that the ability has no effect, leaving him terrified. Kai calmly explains that the Eternal Blood skill is a magic that prevents any form of healing. He recalls that it's a high-level magic that only level 850 black mages can learn, and that he cast it the moment he cut his father. He tells his father that not even a saint could heal him. The protagonist looks at his father kneeling on the ground and states that he stopped the bleeding as a final act of mercy. Furious, his father retorts that Kai had just received that class and questions how he could cast such magic. Kai ignores the question and says that a warrior who has lost his dominant arm is as useless as a $3 bill. With a hollow gaze, Kai declares that his father's justice has no more power. Writhing in pain, Geese asks how Kai could do this to his own father. The protagonist recalls when he was forcibly separated from his beloved and the moment of his death in the future, when Ares revealed that his father had ordered his execution. Kai closes his eyes and exclaims that his father ordered his death in the past. Geese, confused, asks what his son is talking about. Suddenly, the system congratulates him again, explaining that Kai had left his father wounded beyond any healing, and for that, he received another 500 points. Meanwhile, Geese looks at his son Ares, who is still lying on the ground, and a wicked smile forms on his face as he thinks he finally understands. And, still gazing at Ares, he realizes that Ares is the hero, not Kai. The man shouts that Ares will surely be blessed with the hero title, as St. Johann's prophecy is absolute. The protagonist merely watches the scene in silence. His father starts to laugh and yells for them to heal Ares, as, together with the hero, they can surely defeat that evil dark mage. A soldier approaches Ares, but, terrified, points to his body. Geese turns around, asking what's wrong, and is completely paralyzed upon noticing that Ares also bears a dark heraldry. He cannot comprehend how this is possible since Johann's prophecy was supposed to be infallible. The The protagonist, observing this, thinks that his father is partially correct, and that Saint Johann's prophecy indeed did not fail, for Aries received the hero class. However, due to the curse Kai cast on his brother, the light heraldry is being masked by the Dark One. The Prota then reflects that Johann is the greatest threat to his plan. He remembers the prophet saying that having an evil dark mage among the best classes, even if it was a trial sent by God, was still an absurdity. Kai considers that Johann's unique prophecy skill allows him to see fragments of the future every 7 days. Thus, he needs to get rid of the prophet as soon as possible. Kai snaps back to reality and, looking at his father, asks if he will also cast Aries out. He points out that all his father's efforts resulted in demonic classes, and that this marks the end of the esteemed Austen family. Outraged, his father screams that this would never happen, that it could only be a nightmare. On his knees, head bowed, he wonders what will become of the glory of the Austen family now. One of his soldiers asks what they should do with Aries, inquiring if he should cast a recovery spell. Guy screams that it's not necessary and calls Aries filthy. He exclaims that the Austen family does not need dark classes and would rather see him dead. The protagonist looks at Aries and thinks his father is a fool, since Aries is, in fact, a hero of light who will now lose his noble status. Kai concludes that he has finally completed his first objective and that his mission here is over. He bids farewell to his father, turns his back, and starts to walk away. With a choked voice, the Prota's father asks if Kai will really side with the demons, for he is the eldest of the Austen family. Kai immediately replies yes, leaving his father stunned. Remembering the moment of his death in the past, Kai concludes by stating that, indeed, he will join the demons. He recalls Colette and concludes that she is the only human he can trust. The Prota then approaches Griselda and Sasha, calling them to leave. The two look at Kai with admiration, and he reflects that they have shown him that even demons have hearts. He considers them radiant, especially for someone like him who has experienced the worst side of humanity. Kai glances once more at his father, who remains on his knees despairing, and says goodbye. Kai and the girls then leave the mansion, and as they pass through the gate, a guard asks Kai what happened inside. The protagonist tells the guard to inform his father that he doesn't need to watch him leave. The guard tries to ask what's going on, but before he can finish his sentence, Kai looks at him firmly and states that he will kill anyone his father sends after him. The guard is left in shock upon hearing this, while Kai says he's counting on him. Immediately after, Kai uses the instant step skill and vanishes, leaving the guard bewildered, unable to comprehend. Suddenly, they appear in a different place near a lake. Griselda and Sasha are completely astonished by the sudden change in location. The Prota smiles and urges them to keep moving forward. Sasha looks back, marveling at how useful that magic is, as it quickly took them far away, and Griselda approaches Kai, complimenting him for not showing any compassion, not even toward his own father. Kai smiles and thanks the young woman. With a gleam in her eyes, Griselda asks if they are heading to demon territory. He replies yes, that they need to hurry, but first, they must go to Lacus village, where Colette awaits them. Suddenly, he has an idea and says that, just to be sure, he will strengthen the two girls. Griselda, confused, asks if they can get even stronger. Kai then extends his hand and begins using his magic, saying he will lend them the level 10 dark attribute enhancement. The two young women feel the full force entering their bodies, and Griselda comments that she feels an intense heat rising from within, while Sasha says it's far too stimulating for her. Looking at Griselda, Kai reflects that this is one of the abilities of the Subordination Pact, which allows him to lend abilities to his subordinates. He observes Sasha, who is absorbing the power, and concludes that the abilities he lends do not disappear from his list. Rather, they are being shared. Sasha then collapses to her knees, exhausted, and thanks the Prota, while Griselda can barely stand. Seeing this, Kai apologizes and suggests that they should rest a bit. The two young women were worn out. They sit on fallen tree trunks to catch their breath. Putting his hand in his pocket, Kai wonders if Colette is okay. He then takes out the bracelet and, looking at it, thinks that although this gift is broken, it still emanates powerful magic. Suddenly, he remembers the item analysis skill, which allows the user to see attributes and use any item. This skill costs 500 evil points. He uses the skill on the bracelet, and the information revealed is Time Bracelet, a bracelet that responds to the prayers of those who wish to see their loved ones again. It contains the magic of the Saint of Time. This item has already lost its time control magic, increases the wearer's magical defense by 5%. Kai then understands that, just as he suspected, it was thanks to the bracelet's power that he was granted a second chance. He remembers when Colette gave him the bracelet, and with tears in her eyes, she said they would meet again. The Prota grips the object tightly and thinks that the Austen family and everyone who separated them have been destroyed, and now the future will change. Kai then ponders about the Saint of Time and wonders if Colette has a hidden class, just like him, for she was not just a saint. Regardless, he needs to reunite with Colette as soon as possible. Suddenly, Griselda interrupts his thoughts, asking if there's a problem. Kai responds that everything is fine and that they can move forward cautiously. With determination, he silently asks Colette to wait for him. Elsewhere, a servant reveals information to his superior. The mysterious man thanks him for the information and praises him for his good work. This man is Prophet Johann, who with a wicked smile declares that he has finally found the Saint of Time. Sometime later, in a small village, several people are tied up while the prophet's subordinates interrogate them. Soon, several of them approach a bound man, and seeing a sword approaching, the poor man begins to tremble with fear. Then, Johann says that he has already triangulated the location of the Saint Colette, so there will be no need to interrogate them any further. He thanks everyone in the town for their cooperation. Johann then asks one of his subordinates to use the forgetting magic on them before releasing them, which he promptly agrees to, while the bound men become scared, asking about the forgetting magic. One of them, screaming, says that this magic is dangerous, as he heard it drives people insane. Johann, losing patience, says that the man is quite stubborn, and if he insists on resisting so much, he will make an exception for him. He then orders his subordinates to obliterate the man and asks if anyone else wishes to oppose the forgetting magic, causing all the other men to fall silent. After no one objects, the prophet smiles and says that it's a good thing it was only one person. Moments later, only screams can be heard, scaring the birds in the area. Meanwhile, Colette runs through the forest, fleeing from the prophet's men, and despite being exhausted, she continues without looking back. At the same time, Johann, raising his arm, says that this is the will of the Pope and welcomes the saint, for by receiving her, they will be saved. However, the only thing on his mind is his own salvation, as he doesn't care about demons or the demon king, only desiring the power of the second loop of the saint, reflecting that the time of the saint is the only thing that makes this possible, and she should not think she will escape the prophecy. Meanwhile, she keeps running tirelessly. Then, one of the church warriors asks the prophet why the saint is fleeing from them, and he replies that this is strange, and since it is already night, she may have confused them with thieves. However, he knows that she probably sensed something with the power of the time of the saint. After a while, Colette stops, and looking back, says she won't be able to escape. She quickly sees the warriors approaching, and the archdemon laments not having noticed earlier. Realizing there is no other way out, Colette says it's fine, and she is sure he will understand if they talk. Not long after, the prophet approaches. Reverently, he says, "It's a pleasure to meet her." He then looks closely and notices the mark on the saint's hand, concluding that it is indeed true. The time of the saint is real. She then asks why he prepared such an extravagant reception, and he replies that, to be honest, a prophecy informed them that the demon king will be born, and they need to protect her because only she will be able to protect the royal capital with the barrier she has. Colette is stunned to hear this, and before she can say anything, Johann says that this is her duty. Still with her fist clenched, she says he shouldn't worry about it, because the birth of the Demon King was prevented by the true hero, Kai. Upon hearing this, Johan is shocked. She continues, asking if it wasn't prophesied that the Demon King would be born today and half the population would be killed, arguing that since this hasn't happened yet, it must have been Kai who prevented it. Hearing all this, Johan is intrigued and asks how she knows about his prophecy. The saint then responds that Kai told her, and even though the prophet doesn't believe it, Kai returned from 5 years in the future, and on that day, he saved countless lives, so he is the true hero. Johan is even more surprised by these words and bursts into laughter, asking what happened and saying that now he understands, affirming that he is witnessing living proof of the second loop. With a malicious look, he asks if the Kai she is talking about is the son of the Austen family, which she confirms. Then the prophet says that he is sorry to inform her, but he used the terrifying power of the abyss to almost kill his own brother, then rebelled against the Austen family, and even set fire to the family's mansion before fleeing. This shocks the saint, who asks if that really happened, claiming she doesn't believe this story. However, Johan, with a bizarre smile, says that his prophecy is absolute, and Kai Austen is the new Demon King. With that, he questions whether the saint will really ally herself with the Demon King, and comments that he can see that the saint is losing composure. He then gestures with his hand, and the prophet's warriors quickly advance toward Colette, while he asserts that she has left them no choice but to capture her. Johan reflects that Kai Austen from the second loop is a terrible threat to his plans, but sees that he has a special connection with Colette. So, if he takes the girl hostage, Kai won't be able to act against him, and he might even be able to extract some information. He also reflects that the time of the saint is indeed the key to the second loop, and the day when he will rule sovereign over the world is getting closer. But suddenly, the archdemon, who was previously in acute form, returns to its original form in a terrifying way, making all the warriors stop immediately. Terrified, they watch the beast, and even the prophet is shocked to see that huge demon. Without hesitation, the archdemon charges at the warriors, attacking one of them ferociously. Soon, one of the men sees Johan fall to the ground in terror and calls for him, but Colette, with the archdemon behind her, says that she had thought they could resolve this by talking, but now she realizes that everything Kai said was true. The prophet then calls her foolish and says that this is an archdemon. The saint, in a serious tone, tells him that he is the source of corruption and orders him to repent immediately. Seeing there was no escape, Johan says that he is sorry and that she is right, and from that moment on, he will be at her command. But the archdemon, furious, asks if he really thinks he can get away with such a shallow lie, and says he will make sure he never lies again. But before the archdemon could do anything, Colette asks him to wait. Then, the prophet, kneeling, says that the Pope forced him, and it wasn't his will to do this. But if no demon king was born, he now realizes that he has little reason to go after the saint. Colette, hearing all of this, becomes suspicious and asks if he is really telling the truth, and the archdemon, hearing that, tells her to stop. However, she ignores him and listens to the prophet, who swears by God that he is telling the truth. With that, she asks everyone to drop their weapons and surrender, and Johan agrees, but says he has one request first. He claims that her demon injured his men, which she agrees with, saying she will heal them. However, Johan says that she doesn't need to worry because it was their fault. Hearing this, the archdemon remains extremely suspicious, while the saint just watches and says it's fine. Johan then takes a potion and places it in the mouth of one of his subordinates, claiming it's a healing potion. He quickly makes the warrior drink it, and with a smile, Johan says it's very sweet. Out of nowhere, he starts laughing, saying that she is indeed a very sweet woman, while the warrior falls to the ground feeling something strange and asks what is happening to him. Colette, seeing all of this, is confused. Then, the archdemon, noticing something wrong, prepares to attack and asks what the prophet is planning. Suddenly, the warrior of faith starts screaming in pain, and his clothes begin to tear, leaving the saint terrified. She sees that the man has transformed into a sort of white Hulk and blocked the archdemon's attack with just one hand. Also watching the scene, Johann smiles and asks if the warrior likes the level boost and how it feels to be at level 800, which the warrior, completely delirious and transformed into a beast, says is unbelievable, as he can even rival an archdemon. The beast, observing this, comments that he really had a card up his sleeve. Then, it starts preparing magic with its other hand, saying that he should not be underestimated. As the battle intensifies, the prophet notices that the saint is defenseless, so he takes advantage of the moment and starts using magic, saying that now he will need to hurt her to prevent her from escaping. Then, subtly, he uses the miracle of light, holy arrow, attacking Colette, who can do nothing but watch the attack rapidly approaching, and, realizing she won't be able to dodge the holy arrow, she tries to defend herself using her arm. While using the magic, Johann smiles maliciously. However, before she is hit, the archdemon steps in front of the saint and is struck by the magic. Colette, seeing this action, is devastated and worried, while the demon screams in pain from the powerful attack. The prophet's men are also astonished by the scene, and Johann, adjusting his glasses, says that a high-level demon reduced to a guard dog is truly pathetic. With that, he tells his men that this is the chance for the Holy Knights. Then, they quickly use light reinforcement magic, and one of them says they are on the side of justice, calling everyone to attack with him. They then charge fearlessly, while the prophet thinks that this is pure elemental advantage, as light is stronger than darkness. Soon, the archdemon falls to the ground and is relentlessly attacked from all sides, which he, bleeding, says is too much even for a demon like him. Angry about this, Colette starts shouting, saying that this was cowardly and stating that Johann should be ashamed of declaring himself a saint. He, smiling, says that he was entrusted with a sacred mission, so he is the embodiment of good and justice. Hearing this, the demon becomes outraged, commenting that humans are filthy, but soon falls to the ground again due to the blows, unable to react, as he takes more extremely powerful attacks. He asks Colette to flee. Moments later, he is completely obliterated, leaving the girl paralyzed, unable to believe what she is seeing. But soon, the White Hulk, with a sword in hand, says that it's finally over. However, he feels something strange again, and his veins begin to bulge until suddenly they all begin to burst, making him look like a ketchup packet being popped. Suffering, he kneels desperately in pain and says that it hurts so much. Then, he screams for Johann to save him. However, the prophet, with disdain, tells him to stay away and calls him a filthy being. This makes him even more terrified, thinking that this would be his end, until suddenly, the saint places her hands on his arm and, staring him in the eyes, begins to heal him, saying that she will not abandon him and will heal him immediately. With these words, the man becomes emotional and starts crying. As he sheds tears, the saint continues trying to heal him. She concentrates, giving everything she can in that situation. However, the man says he is sorry and dies suddenly, staining the saint, who looks at it in disbelief. The prophet then approaches, saying that this is filth and they need to clean it up now. Colette, trembling with fear, asks if he already knew this would happen, which he confirms, emphasizing that they managed to improve the strength of that magical potion several times. But Colette interrupts him, crying uncontrollably, and on her knees says that, despite Johann calling Kai the Demon King, the true Demon King is actually him, acting against humanity. However, Johann simply closes the book, saying that it's a pity, and approaching the saint, says that he thought this would be fun for her as well. Hearing these words, Colette cries even more, outraged and furious with everything happening, while the prophet turns and tells his men that there is an emergency, explaining that Colette had a subordinate of the Demon King as a bodyguard, and her mind has undoubtedly been corrupted. He then looks back with a bizarre smile and uses the holy bonds, sacred chains to bind the girl, saying that she should listen well, because the demon king Kai is their true enemy, and from now on, she is forbidden from acting for his benefit. The girl, desperate, simply screams, and he continues, saying that if she breaks that restriction, the chains will tighten, increasing her suffering. Completely immobilized, she falls to the ground, claiming that Kai is not their enemy, which makes Johann say that the rumors that she really loved him are true, and that's beautiful. However, he wonders how long that love will last, because soon all that love will turn into nothing but pain. Hearing these words, Colette simply closes her eyes, thinking of her beloved, and while the prophet smiles, one of his subordinates approaches, saying that this is an exaggeration because the saint had mercy on them before. Johann listens attentively, and without hesitation, strikes the man with power before he could do anything. Immediately, the paladin falls lifeless to the ground, while the prophet says that another heretic had appeared. After witnessing the scene, Colette says that this is too much cruelty and emphasizes that God is watching this evil behavior, and at some point, he will be punished. He responds by saying that it was God who gave him the title of saint, and he is justice, and asserts that she will be judged by the heavens. Colette, completely surrendered, says that this couldn't have happened, and that's why she is sorry, and this makes the chains tighten even more. Johann laughs upon hearing that, and says that with the saint in his power, even the second demon king will not be a problem. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Kai wonders if his beloved has made it to the village safely. Watching the village still distant, he continues carrying firewood until he finally reaches a cabin. Upon entering, he is informed that dinner is ready, and while the girls serve the food, he says that this is amazing. With a smile, he comments that it looks delicious, and after using so much of the shadow step, he's starving. But suddenly, he feels something, and the heraldry on his hand begins emitting powerful energy, making him drop the firewood he was carrying. This leaves Griselda worried, and she asks if he is okay. Kai observes his hand and notices that this is actually the magic he had allocated for the archdemon, which has now returned. This makes him worried, wondering if the demon had been defeated. He then concentrates and telepathically calls for the archdemon, who soon responds, saying that he is there. Kai asks what happened to Colette, and to his surprise, the archdemon says he is sorry and informs him that she has been captured. Minutes earlier, Griselda was commenting to Sasha that Kai is a very skilled hunter and can catch food in the blink of an eye. Sasha then says that he mentioned having traveled alone for a long time, and Griselda responds that it really makes sense. With a sparkle in her eyes, she says that Kai even knows the habits of the forest rabbits by heart and remembers when he had taught her how to hunt. She comments that Kai is able to catch one of those rabbits with great ease. Observing the girl's excitement, Sasha says that Griselda seems so different when she talks about Kai. This makes her embarrassed, asking what Sasha is trying to say, but the blonde, smiling, says that it's nothing. Then, noticing that Kai had dropped the firewood, they hear him say that Colette has been captured, leaving them confused and worried. Immediately, Griselda asks if something happened, and he responds that the archdemon who was protecting her has been defeated, which the girl doubts, as he was a high-level demon and would only be defeated by an army. Intrigued by all this, Kai reflects that when a summon is defeated, it can only be summoned again after 24 hours, and that means his beloved is completely alone at that moment. He recalls the powerful demon apologizing and saying that it was the Saint Johann and his knights who attacked them and captured Colette, which intrigued the protagonist and made him question why Johann was after Colette. But the archdemon only said that the prophet had called Kai the traveler of the second loop. Remembering the entire conversation, the protagonist becomes even more confused, wondering how Johann knows about the second cycle, until Kai remembers that, in fact, Johann possesses the ability of prophecy. And if that's the case, then he was already after Colette in the first cycle, and with that, he wonders what the prophet's goal is. Maybe to go back to the past or something like that. But soon, the archdemon informs the protagonist that Johann said that Kai was the demon king, and then used, without hesitation, the divine chains to bind the saint and strip her of her free will, forcing her to become an enemy of Kai. Shocked by the information, the protagonist reflects on this so-called enslavement magic and tells the demon that he understands everything and now he can rest. He then looks outside, deep in thought, but soon Griselda approaches and asks if he is okay, pointing out that he suddenly became very serious. Meanwhile, trembling with rage, he says to himself that he will never forgive Johann or the damn church for all of that, and that he will make them all pay a price worse than death. He affirms to himself, determined, that he will take his revenge. Until, suddenly, someone starts using magic and hits Kai in the back, surprising him. But when he turns around, he sees that it is Griselda, and he asks what the hell she is doing. With a smug smile, she asks if it hurt and says that she is strong too. Hearing that, Kai is completely lost, not understanding what she is trying to say. Then, visibly irritated, she says that he is carrying too much weight on his shoulders and shouldn't forget that she and Sasha are here too, questioning if they are his precious companions or not. The protagonist, still a bit shocked, listens to her saying that the three of them will rescue Colette as a team, and this makes him reflect that in the first cycle, the two were his enemies, Griselda with her army, and Ares, who was supposed to be his ally, and even his whole family, all enemies, and now he has come to understand everything. Kai then, with a smile, thanks the two of them, who immediately smile back, while he wonders if he has finally gained true allies. The protagonist then thinks for a moment and says that soon a powerful barrier will cover the royal capital, and this is a powerful magic that will prevent anyone without permission from passing through. So crossing it will be nearly impossible. Even Griselda, the strongest demon of the future, failed miserably multiple times, which shocks the girl, who says that that is impossible. She then asks what they could do, and the protagonist, in a serious tone, says that they will infiltrate an informant into the capital, leaving both of them even more incredulous. Kai then explains that the barrier is strengthened by sacred artifacts inside the castle, so if they destroy them, the barrier should weaken, and he will take care of that. Sasha then says that they will have to find an informant and asks if anyone will agree to help them, to which Kai doesn't respond, just flashing a smile, leaving Griselda excited, asking if he already has a plan in mind. He confirms and emphasizes that even if they get past the barrier, the three of them still won't be enough. So, first, they will reclaim Griselda's territory, which leaves the girl even more surprised. She then asks about Colette, and the protagonist says that, although he doesn't like the idea of leaving her with them, he needs to make sure they have the strength to save her, and with that, they will certainly have the necessary help. Thoughtfully, Kai tells himself that Johann made the worst mistake of his life because he just created a much worse demon king than Griselda, so the prophet better be prepared. Suddenly, something starts heading toward Kai at high speed, and with incredible reflexes, he manages to dodge a dagger that would have hit him squarely in the head. After dodging, he becomes irritated upon realizing that the prophet had already sent hunters. It doesn't take long before the man who threw the dagger enters the cabin, and, in a sinister tone, the hooded hunter asks if he is the demon king Kai Austin. Soon, more eyes start appearing, saying they are the church's sword, the purifiers, and they order Kai to repent for his sins. They quickly charge at him, making the girls jump in fear, and Griselda asks who those people are. The protagonist, dodging an attack, says they are from the hidden side of the church and eliminate anyone who gets in their way. In a quick movement, one of the hunters throws several daggers at the protagonist, who immediately realizes he won't be able to dodge, until Sasha heroically jumps in front of Kai and, with a plate, manages to block the attack. Slightly, Griselda also charges forward, showing excitement and motivation as they are members of the church. In the blink of an eye, she kicks them out of the cabin with precise strikes, and one of the hunters, looking back and seeing his fallen comrade writhing in pain on the ground, finds himself surrounded by hunters outside the cabin. Griselda and the others remain undaunted, and she says that even though they are outnumbered, Kai doesn't need to worry because he is not alone. He reflects that he also fought against the purifiers in his first life. As the hunters advance, he continues to remember that those are the elite force of the Holy Church, and he had a lot of trouble against them because they give everything in a battle. So, he uses the Black Lightning, destroying everything and anything around him, concluding that he is much stronger now than he was back then. And, moreover, he still has his companions by his side. Immediately, Sasha starts throwing plates at the advancing hunters, and, kicking one of the plates, she uses the Dinner Storm. One of the hunters, noticing the attack coming toward him, is shocked and takes the hit directly to the head, being thrown backward. Watching the scene, one of them notes that they are fighting powerful opponents, but before he could think of anything, Griselda also starts using her powers and attacks with the Blood Whip, hitting precisely 3 of the hunters, who didn't even have time to think of a reaction. After the attack, she asks if that's all they can do and points out that she is just getting started. Observing the effect of Griselda's attacks, Kai is surprised that the church members aren't even able to react, and with that, he tells her not to let her guard down and comments that they are like forest rabbits. Hearing that, she gets confused and wonders about them being like rabbits, but soon remembers that days before, Kai had explained to her that when rabbits are cornered, they hide and usually use shadows to conceal themselves. After seeing that really happen, she understood what the protagonist meant. Returning to the present, with a smile, she stays alert with her powers ready, while the church knights hiding behind bushes don't realize that she is still on alert and wonder if she has run out of energy. They then prepare to ambush her. At the same time, Griselda lowers her head and, concentrating, manages to feel that their enemies are behind the trees. It doesn't take long before the hunters charge at high speed, but as they pass through an energy hole in the ground, one of them is surprised, and before they could do anything, all of them are caught by traps that cruelly impale them like meat skewers. Watching the scene, Griselda smiles, proud of her work, while Sasha congratulates Kai for his teachings and his companion for the execution. Then, Griselda affirms that it's all thanks to the Pact of the Celestial Kings, which Sasha agrees with, also saying she feels much more capable than before. After all the hunters are completely obliterated without much difficulty, Kai tells himself that it helped a little and is surprised that they have come this far, as he apparently underestimated the potential of the girls. Sasha then approaches with one of the warriors and informs that they captured him, asking what they should do with him. The protagonist says that this is perfect. He tells the man that he was waiting for them to come after him, but didn't expect them to arrive so quickly, and the man, trembling, questions if Kai was already expecting them. The protagonist ignores the question and orders the man to make a pact with him, the new Demon King, and become his familiar. This leaves Griselda completely confused, remembering when Kai made the pact with Sasha. She then asks why Kai would make a pact with someone like him. The protagonist then makes a simple gesture for her to stop and tells the church member that he is not in a position to refuse. But he, reluctant, says he would never do that, asking why a devotee who has lived his whole life for the church would make a pact with the Demon King. The protagonist then turns to Griselda and asks her to transform the poor man into a zombie using her vampiric powers. This terrifies the man, imagining what that would be like and asking if Kai plans to turn him into an immortal monster, begging him not to do it. Kai then says that he already knew he would say that and asks what his name is. The man then closes his eyes, tense, and answers that his name is Mateo. The protagonist then warns that if Mateo betrays him, he will lose his life, which he responds by saying that he understands and that they should proceed with the pact. With that, Kai says it's fine and begins to make the pact, stating that he will give Mateo the class of Demon Commander. Moments later, the faithful man begins to feel something and says that he feels like he is overflowing with power. Watching the scene, Griselda gets irritated and asks Kai why he is doing this, pointing out that he is a human and, moreover, an enemy. He then, with a smile, says that Mateo has just become their spy and will be sent to the village to infiltrate. Hearing this, Griselda becomes extremely excited, affirming that this plan is brilliant and asking why he didn't explain it earlier. The protagonist then calls for Mateo and says that he will take the following message to Johann. The Demon King has an item that is the key to the second loop, and the Demon King went to the south. With a determined look and without hesitation, Mateo says he understands the message. The protagonist then explains that more spies are needed besides Mateo, because when Johann finds out where he is, the prophet will definitely send more pursuers, and when he defeats them again, he will make a pact with them to infiltrate them. Looking at his own insignia, Kai reflects that it would be much faster if Johann decided to come to him personally, and when the time comes, he will use the spies to break the barrier. Shocked by the plan, Griselda comments that it is incredible, while Sasha says that Kai-sama is truly a natural strategist and has everything to be the strongest demon king of all, because he is both wise and bold. Hearing the praise, Kai becomes embarrassed and asks them to stop exaggerating. Then, suddenly, a notification arrives, congratulating him and informing that he defeated the purifiers and turned one of them into an informant, and for that, he received evil points. The protagonist, pleasantly surprised, asks if that also counted as an evil act, and reflects that if things continue like this, he will end up gaining more than just spies, and might even acquire resources to use in the future, but he needs to rescue Colette as soon as possible. Suddenly, Sasha calls for him, and he asks what's wrong. She then shows him a fallen, wounded being and comments that a demon is hurt. Immediately, Griselda runs to the demon and asks what happened. Desperately, she screams for him to be healed immediately, and the demon, in his last moments, says that the demon territory is lost and they need to flee from them. Griselda then shouts for him to hold on and asks what he is talking about. Intrigued, Kai just watches, shocked, and the demon, almost passing away, says it was Elsa. Sometime later, elsewhere, the protagonist says that they are close to the former demon territory, and since the sun is already setting, they should rest in the village that night. However, he thinks to himself that he will definitely save his beloved and hopes she is okay at that moment. Meanwhile, watching a beautiful blue butterfly, Griselda also thinks about Colette and says that they need to resolve this quickly, while the wounded demon, approaching, greets the three of them. He thanks them deeply for getting him out of that critical state, which makes Griselda say that it was nothing. With determination in her eyes, she says that she will not allow her people to perish, which the demon, bowing, says is admirable. She then asks him to hide until they can retake the demon territory, and the demon, agreeing, emphasizes that their territory is in terrible condition under the command of Elsa and her faction, as they are Machiavellian and use any means necessary to achieve their goals. She then asks him, please, to be careful, while Kai, after thinking that, unlike Ares, Elsa will not be an easy opponent to deal with, says that they need to gather information. Hours later, in a tavern, loud laughter is heard, seemingly mocking demons. Hearing all of this, Kai remains silent, as does Griselda, while they hear someone saying they can crush demons with just one hand. The man, holding his beer mug, comments that invading that place was easy and fun. This catches Kai's attention, who hears the bald man saying that Elsa will finally gain the title of nobility, making the protagonist pay even more attention to the conversation. The scarred guy then comments that this makes them servants of a noble, which will be great. Griselda becomes extremely irritated hearing all of that, but Kai asks her to control herself. Then, everything continues normally in the tavern, and the protagonist says that she doesn't need to worry, because Elsa's reign will be short-lived, and soon they will crush them. He reflects that he needs more information about Elsa's faction, so if they can get a little more from her servants, that would be great. Suddenly, a plate arrives at their table, making Griselda's eyes light up, and she comments that she loves omelets. This makes Kai smile and comment that anything pleases her. Sasha promptly starts serving a glass of wine for Kai, which he thanks her for. Observing that, Elsa's servants comment that he must be a noble and begin to laugh. Observing the clothes of his companions, the protagonist comments that it's time for the two of them to find new outfits. He says that he wouldn't like to say it, but the two of them are standing out quite a lot in that environment. It doesn't take long before one of the men approaches, greeting Sasha and asking her to serve him as well. She asks what he is talking about and says she refuses to do that. The man laughs at her response and asks if she knows that he is from Elsa's faction's vanguard, so she should leave that annoying noble alone and serve him. Meanwhile, Kai thinks that his plan is working, and Griselda is still celebrating that she will finally eat her omelet. Suddenly, out of nowhere, the man kicks the table, sending everything flying, and asks if Sasha is deaf. Seeing her precious omelet flying, Griselda is paralyzed, unable to believe what she is seeing, while the bald man drinks excitedly at the situation, and others are stunned. Griselda watches the omelet on the floor and, with tears in her eyes, calls the man insolent. However, the man isn't concerned with that and, smiling, calls Griselda a vampire and asks if the blonde girl is her slave. He comments that she seems well-trained and desires to possess her. Kai, observing the situation, steps in front of the man, saying that that's enough. Promptly, the bully observes the protagonist's insignia carefully, raises his bottle, and calls Kai a brat, saying that he is very brave for being just a C-rank black mage. He turns around and comments that it's the class he hates the most, asking if he should eliminate him right there. The protagonist, unfazed, says that he should first pay for the omelet, leaving the man even more surprised, as he was showing his hand to Kai, trying to intimidate him. He comments again that Kai is very brave for not running away after seeing the dragon gauntlets, but the protagonist remains on alert, thinking that this guy is from the warrior class and seems quite confident. He then says that he has a few questions for the man, and the bully responds that, unfortunately, the questions will go unanswered, as that conversation will be very short. Immediately he charges at Kai, preparing to attack with the gauntlets, and saying that he will just eliminate that brat and take the two girls. Watching the scene, the bald partner gets excited, while the others become worried and scared. However, Kai Austin, focused and calm, just watches intently. The man then delivers the blow, breaking everything in front of him, and after the attack, smiles proudly, saying that the brat chose the wrong opponent. However, before he could say anything else, he feels an immense pain that makes him bleed from the mouth. It's none other than the power of a punch from the protagonist, which makes the bully fall to his knees, and after a few moments, he falls completely lifeless. After the blow, Kai holds his own fist and asks if he overdid it. While observing the scene, the people present are completely stunned and incredulous, except for Sasha and Griselda, who are celebrating, commenting that it was very satisfying. The bald man, who also witnessed everything, says that it's impossible for a black mage to have defeated a member of the vanguard, and with that, Kai identifies them as Elsa's subordinates as well. He then turns around and explains that, in fact, this happened because he is level 999, leaving the two men even more shocked, saying that there's no way that's true, to which he responds, saying that he is stronger than an ordinary warrior, and now it's time for them to start talking. The two members of the vanguard begin to tremble and sweat with fear, and the one with green hair asks why he is after Elsa. Displaying his powers, the protagonist responds that he doesn't want to spoil the food, so they will talk in the back of the establishment, and emphasizes that black mages have a vast arsenal for torture. Promptly, the two men, scared out of their minds, say it's fine and that they will tell everything. Outside the tavern, Kai, with his arms crossed, says he understands everything and asks if the economy is doing well, also questioning if they are making money with demon slaves. Hearing this, the two thugs just think that they are completely screwed. Moments later, Kai returns to the tavern with a smile on his face. With a bag of money in hand, he tells everyone there that he will pay for everyone's bill, which makes the men smile and celebrate happily, while Griselda comments that Kai is really generous and will spend the two fools' money, Elsa's subordinates. However, Sasha doesn't show the same excitement and asks if he shouldn't spend it on something better, to which he responds by saying it's fine, and points out that if the trouble continues, Elsa might notice and become cautious. And after everyone eats and drinks, he will cast a forgetting spell on everyone there. He also notes that drunk people are more susceptible to that magic. After hearing all of that, Griselda becomes worried and informs the protagonist that the forgetting magic is usually dangerous. While casting the magic at the door, he again reassures her that everything will be fine, as it is a high-level magic and there is no risk, and when everyone sobers up, they will forget about them. Looking at the money on the floor, the vampire then asks what he will do with the leftover money, and he replies that after paying for the damages to the tavern, he thinks it's best to use it to cover the expenses they'll have on the trip. Meanwhile, outside, the bully continues to be oblivious, while the other two cry over the lost money. Inside, Sasha says that this will be fun, while Griselda, once again with her omelet, says that they will buy new clothes afterward. Kai says that's a good idea since they are entering enemy territory and can't look suspicious. As they eat and drink, someone hooded starts to leave the tavern. It's the girl who had been watching everything closely earlier, now showing an interested look. The next morning, the church soldiers are marching tirelessly, their faces blank. Soon, Elsa's two henchmen notice this and wonder what is going on. As they approach the soldiers stop, and the big guy asks why so many holy knights are in that village. Indeed, there were many knights. One of them, probably the leader, shows an image of Kai to the man and asks if he has seen a criminal named Kai Austin. Immediately, Elsa's subordinate recognizes him and, shocked, recalls what happened the previous night. He responds to the soldier that he hasn't seen him and adds that, besides, he ran out of money the day before, but could provide information if he received some change. However, the leader tells his men that Kai wasn't in that village and asks if they should move further south, to which the warriors agree. He then says that the village will no longer be useful. From a distance, Kai watches everything unfold and signals that they have finally arrived. Sasha, also observing, points out that they came with many warriors, and that flag indicates they are holy warriors from the church, estimating that there must be about 300 of them. Watching closely, she states that they are the sacred elite. This makes the protagonist uneasy, commenting that it's exactly as the archdemon had said. He recalls when he instructed Matteo to send the message and notes how quickly they acted after Matteo delivered it. He had asked Matteo to notify Johann that the Demon King holds the key to the second loop, and also remembers the archdemon mentioning that after the hunters were sent, they would also send 300 holy knights. This makes him reflect that, with this many men, the entire church must be mobilized, not just Johann's personal desire. This leaves him even more thoughtful. Suddenly, Griselda tells Kai not to worry, as they will manage to drive them away. Kai is surprised by these words and thinks it's truly reassuring, agreeing with Griselda. However, to himself, he thinks that he has no intention of forgiving the holy knights and letting them go, as the moment they laid a finger on Colette, their fate was sealed in hell. Just recalling this makes him angry, but still, he controls himself and calls for the girls, telling them he has a request, to which they ask what it is. With a serious look and a dark tone, he asks them to completely annihilate all those knights. The girls listen attentively without saying a word. However, Kai asks them to do so without causing any damage to their bodies. Griselda is immediately surprised and asks why, while Sasha, on the other hand, says that if Master Kai is asking, there must be a reason, though, against such a number of elite soldiers, especially with the disadvantage of the light attribute. Kai interrupts her, saying it's fine because they've defeated purifiers under worse conditions in the past, and emphasizes that the two of them are extremely strong. This leaves both of them completely stunned, but soon, Sasha says that she trusts what he is saying, and Kai emphasizes that they should use the best of their attributes. With everything planned, he says they should begin. Focused, he notices the nearby bushes moving and making noise, thinking that those soldiers must be receiving supplements. But it shouldn't be anything serious. After some time, not far from there, the paladin leader comments that the two guys they found really didn't have a scent, and he hadn't thought that chasing the Demon King would be so difficult. However, if they consider the fools to be heretics of God, they can loot at will, which is a great deal. After looking at the two idiots on the ground, the leader notices something ahead, the silhouette of a man. Upon closer inspection, he recognizes Kai Austin. Promptly, he draws his sword and asks if Kai has stopped fleeing, saying that appearing like this in front of them is quite an arrogant gesture. The protagonist ignores him and simply asks if Colette is okay, which infuriates the old man, who starts to say that it's none of his business, and that Colette will live and die for the Holy Church. Hearing these words, Kai says that the old man is done for and that it's enough. Immediately, the church warriors are brutally attacked, many of them at once. The commander, turning around, notices that his men are being taken down without even having time to react. Attacking the men, Sasha moves like the wind, striking them with a smile on her face. She moves like a true ninja, leaving the men paralyzed. Watching the scene, the old man becomes irritated and asks what the hell is going on. The soldiers, terrified by the massacre, only hear the commander telling them to capture the enemies. However, one of them is completely immobilized and being suffocated by magic, leaving the others even more stunned. In the blink of an eye, Griselda eliminates him with a sudden and precise move. The leader can't believe that those men from the church's elite are being wiped out in such a manner, while Kai, mocking, says that apparently he won't need to interfere in this battle. Sasha continues defeating the soldiers, even using knee strikes like John Jones, while Griselda, with her powers, easily controls them, leaving only their bodies on the ground and walking calmly through the battlefield. Before he could do anything, the leader is overpowered by Sasha, who, pointing a knife at him, asks Kai what she should do with him, as he is the last man. Kai, realizing this is the commander, wonders if they should use him instead of just sending him to hell. He looks at the man with a serious expression, making the old man even more terrified, thinking that this is really the end for him. Suddenly, Griselda approaches and says that she has gathered all the knights' bodies, which, despite being lifeless, are in perfect condition. This makes the protagonist smile and say that they did a great job. Hearing this, both girls feel a bit embarrassed and smile proudly. Moments later, while rummaging through the bodies, Griselda finds it strange that these men possess expensive belongings, and Sasha comments that the corruption of the Holy Church seems worse than she thought. Meanwhile, Kai, observing one of the bodies, is pleased that they are intact, because this means he can test a magic. Out of nowhere, Griselda calls the protagonist and asks what he will do with these men, and when he says they will turn them into allies, it leaves both girls shocked and confused. Kai then begins to use the magic, remembering that it is a forbidden black magic called rebellion against God, and, thinking it through, remembers that in his past life, he had never used it. Watching that, Griselda is stunned, commenting that this is really something huge, and, with the entire area filled with the protagonist's black magic, the soldiers begin to receive it into their bodies, and, moments later, they start to come back to life, until finally, after some time, all the church knights are resurrected with that powerful black magic. Griselda, shocked, wonders what the hell that is, recognizing it as high-level necromancy. Still incredulous, she says that Kai managed to use it on such an absurd scale, and now understands why the protagonist asked them not to damage the bodies. Among the soldiers, the commander, also present, is in shock. Then, Kai explains that they have perfectly synchronized command, with courage and bravery in battles, and with the original bodies of elite knights, equipped with high-level heavy armor, they form an unmatched battalion, a true zombie army. Shocked by all of this, the commander says that Kai will never be forgiven by God, which makes Kai reflect for a moment and ask if he is really referring to God, because remembering his beloved, who is trapped in the capital, He says that if God exists, there should be salvation, and if he chose not to extend his hand to a saint, then it is he who cannot be forgiven. These words leave the old man even more shocked, and Kai reflects that to rescue Colette, he will do whatever it takes. He then asks the commander his name, and the man, trembling with fear, can barely speak, prompting Kai to offer him two options. The first is to become a subordinate of the Demon King, and the second is to be a zombie. Suddenly, the system congratulates the protagonist again, informing him that he defeated 300 holy knights and made their commander surrender, earning him 1,200 points. Immediately, the archdemon appears and informs that he has taken care of the enemies who fled and ensured Johann will not hear of them. Surprised by the appearance, Griselda asks what that creature is, and Kai explains that it is an archdemon, leaving the girl even more confused and asking if that is what she heard in the rumors. Meanwhile, the little devil asks Kai about the other matter they should take care of, and Kai, somewhat suspicious, says that they will handle that as well. In the bushes, trying to hide, the hooded girl from the tavern is noticed by the protagonist. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Ares walks through the forest, completely lost and confused, wondering what the hell happened to him. It doesn't take long until he remembers that the cause of all this was his own brother, and, weakened, he collapses to the ground, unconscious. Moments later, a carriage passing by notices the young man lying on the ground. Ares then wakes up to the noise and begins to try to speak, and inside the carriage, a gentleman and a beautiful lady are shocked to see the young man in that condition. Hours later, at dusk, Ares, eating noodles, celebrates life, saying that this time it was a close call. Meanwhile, the young lady, with a shy smile, says that it's really good to see him well and safe, and she never expected to have the honor of meeting a hero. As she speaks, Ares devours the noodles like a hungry dog, and the blonde, still smiling, asks why he was lying there in such a remote place. Upon hearing this question, Ares quickly becomes irritated. 3 days earlier, in front of the Austen family estate, Ares had tried to convince the guards that he was the second son of the family and begged them to let him in. Showing his heraldry, he asked them to take a good look, as the emblem of light meant that he was the hero. One of the guards then replied that this proved nothing, but if he showed the holy sword, they would inform his father. This irritated Ares, who, shouting, said that the holy sword had been broken, which made the guard retort, saying that this was impossible. Ares, even more enraged, attempted to punch the guard, but the guard, with extreme ease, blocked the punch using only one hand. However, it was at this moment that the guard noticed something and promptly said that Ares had now revealed who he truly was, claiming that he was from a dark class with attributes of darkness. This confused the young man, but as he noticed the heraldry on his own hand, he was shocked, wondering why the hell that symbol had changed. The guard, doubting everything, said that he was actually pretending to be a hero, and ordered the other guards to make sure that the kid never came back there and teach him a lesson. Immediately, the other guards began to approach Ares to beat him up, and he, frightened, begged them to wait a second. However, one of them, with an evil smile, said that he had a grudge with Ares for a long time, and now he would pay for everything he had done to him all this time. Hearing this, Ares became even more desperate, pleading not to be beaten and saying that it was all a misunderstanding. But without hesitation, the guards began to hit him. Moments later, they threw him to the ground, and one of them commented that it should be enough, to which another responded that they would never see that worm again. Returning to the present, Ares becomes irritated remembering all of that and thinks that he will never forgive them and that one day he will have his revenge. The girl then questions him about being the hero, to which he disrespectfully says that it's none of her business. Still, the girl apologizes for asking and comments that he must be tired, so he should rest well that night. This makes Ares pay attention to the young lady, and soon he notices that she is actually quite beautiful and has some wonderful curves. With this in mind, he wonders how far the privileges of being a hero go. Soon, the beautiful young lady interrupts his thoughts, saying that she is tired from the trip and will retire, but Aries could feel free to stay. Hearing this, he gives a mischievous smile and comments that he will certainly feel at home. After leaving the dinner, the young lady walks with her servant, who tells her that heroes are nobles, so she could rest easy, to which she responds, saying that she will let him take care of things while she sleeps. With that, she closes her bedroom door and wishes her servant good night. Moments after this, Aries bizarrely appears, asking the servant to hand over all the money in the mansion, which leaves the old man completely shocked. As Aries searches through the mansion, he asks what the young man is talking about. The arrogant young man then tells him to stop stalling and warns that anyone who doesn't cooperate with the hero will be annihilated. This scares the old man even more, who says that this is madness and that what he is doing is robbery. However, Aries argues, saying that the noble lady said he could have whatever he wanted there, which takes the servant by surprise. Observing the heraldry on his hand, the rejected hero notices that the symbol is still glowing, and although he thought it might be a curse, apparently everything is fine now, and as long as he has that heraldry, he can do whatever he wants. With this in mind, he says that now he will truly start feeling like a real hero and orders the servants to bring him women, the most beautiful ones. This irritates the old man, who starts shouting that this is a sick request and that it is impossible for a hero to act like that, so the guards should take him away. Promptly a guard appears, saying he will do it, but as he approaches Aries, he hears the boy telling him to pay close attention. He says that challenging a hero is risky, and if he doesn't want his entire family to be executed, he must obey the orders he receives. This makes the man anxious and unsure of what to do. Then, Aries starts laughing and orders those idiots to bring all the money and all the women available in the mansion. It doesn't take long for them to bring all the money to the ridiculous hero, but upon hearing all the noise, the young lady steps out of her room and asks what is going on. She quickly notices the bags of money on the floor and everyone present. Shocked, she can't believe what she is seeing, as she sees two of her beautiful servants and all the money offered to Aries. Immediately, the old man appears, asking her to please return to her room. However, Aries pushes him away and says that the lady herself is gracing him and that he would like to go to the bathroom with her. This infuriates the young lady, who asks what the hell he is talking about, and he, pointing to the mark on his hand, asks if she is contradicting the hero. However, upon seeing the symbol, the girl says that the symbol doesn't belong to a hero, neither here nor in China. Realizing something is wrong, Aries looks at his own hand, desperate and confused, wondering why the heraldry had transformed into the symbol of darkness again. While he tries to understand what's happening, everyone in the mansion glares at him, completely furious. Before Aries could do anything, the lady orders her guards to capture the idiot, which they promptly do, running after the false hero. Running as if there's no tomorrow, Aries can't understand what happened and keeps saying that he is the hero, the best of all time. Sometime later, in the middle of the night, Aries is again walking through the forest, wounded and with an arrow stuck in his back, commenting that those guards really tried to take his life. Irritated, he says he doesn't understand why that symbol is changing, as he thought it was supposed to be a permanent curse. Seeing a village ahead, he concludes that for now, he needs to leave the Austin territory and regroup, as there are still many people who probably don't know what's going on. Meanwhile, in the village, several people are looking at a poster pinned to the wall. Shocked, they wonder why the second son of the Austin family is being hunted. The poster reads, "Wanted criminal, Aries. A reward will be given for his capture, dead or alive." Meanwhile, elsewhere, Kai is talking to Sasha while the girl hides behind some bushes. Astonished, she comments that those people are very strong, as neither Elsa's subordinates nor the Holy Knights were a match for them. This makes her wonder who those people are. Unaware of a magic approaching, she is taken by surprise by Griselda, who, standing next to her, asks what her objective is. Seeing the threatening magic close to her eye, the girl becomes even more frightened and Griselda asks if she is an agent of the Holy Church, warning her to think carefully about what she will answer. The girl, completely terrified, just closes her eyes and begs Griselda to stop. Then, Kai also asks the vampire to stop, which makes her question him as to why. Kai then explains that apparently, this girl has no ill intentions, and that he had been observing her for some time. This leaves the young girl even more shocked, asking if he really noticed her nearby. The protagonist confirms again, saying he saw her leaving the tavern. He also claims to know that she is a demon. With this, the young girl removes her hood, revealing her rabbit ears, and still says she is shocked that Kai noticed all of that. Griselda is stunned by the whole situation, apologizes for scaring the girl, and takes the opportunity to ask why she was doing that. The purple-haired girl then introduces herself, saying her name is Merle, from the Cat Ear tribe, and asks if they are pursuing Elsa, which Griselda promptly confirms. Merle then lowers her head, and tears begin to fall. She says that she needs to ask them a favor, and Griselda asks what it is. Merle hesitates for a moment, but soon says that her sister and everyone else were captured by Elsa, and she would like them to save them. Kai listens silently as Griselda, intrigued, asks her to explain what happened. Sometime later, walking in a dark place, in the mithril mine on the territory of the former Demon King, several demons are working, while men beat them to make them work more and more. Watching the scene, Griselda is upset to see so many demons being enslaved, and says that this is unforgivable. Kai then asks Merle if she was also a slave there, which she confirms, but points out that she was lucky. She explains that when the mine collapsed, many demons were buried, but she survived the incident, and with that, escaped from Edgar. Listening to the story attentively, Kai asks who Edgar is, and Merle informs him that he is the supervisor there. The protagonist is surprised that there is a supervisor there, and imagines that he must be one of Elsa's high-level subordinates, which makes this Edgar a rather formidable guy. Then he asks if Merle knows anything about him, maybe his fighting style or characteristics of this Edgar. The girl, a little hesitant, informs him that his class is Supreme Mage. This makes Kai nervous, as he knows that it could be a problem, just like Griselda, who also becomes anxious and asks if she really said Supreme Mage, because that will definitely be a problem. Merle just nods in confirmation. With that, Kai reflects that Griselda is right, as a Supreme Mage is one of the strongest of all mages, and underestimating him would be very dangerous, so they need to come up with a plan. Suddenly, Sasha calls out to Kai and informs him that she has returned from the patrol she was doing, and upon seeing her, the protagonist asks if something is wrong, as she looks pale. Indeed, Sasha, whiter than a palm tree, says that she was seen by the enemies and had to use magical energy to fight. The protagonist becomes even more worried upon hearing this, but says that at least she is safe, and remembers that he asked her to patrol because she knows that area well, but consecutive battles would drain anyone's magical power. He then starts interacting with the system, reflecting that he isn't carrying recovery potions because he trusts his own energy reserves too much, and wonders if he had an appropriate skill, it could help. Soon, he finds a skill in the system called Drain Magical Power, which steals energy from others, and with that, he smiles, concluding that this skill will be useful. He acquires the skill and immediately starts using it on Sasha. After the procedure, he explains that he shared one of his skills with her, and she asks what kind of skill it was. Kai then says that it's called Magic Power Drain, and with it, he can transfer magical energy to her. This leaves her shocked, upset that he is giving his power to her, but he explains that with this skill, she could drain magical energy, but it can also be used carefully on allies to only share a little, so they will use it to recover and use strategically, stressing that he trusts her to do this. However, to himself, he thinks there's another purpose behind this decision too. Sasha then takes a deep breath and soon starts draining the protagonist's energy. Quickly, she says that her magical energy is returning to normal and that she already feels completely recovered. While her energy is being drained, the protagonist notices that, at his level, it barely affects him, and tells her that everything is fine now. He then asks how her patrol went. This grabs the attention of Griselda and Merle, who listen attentively as Sasha says that she found a caravan on the road near the mine, and in the caravan, there were many demons in cages. She says it seemed like they were being transported to be sold as slaves. Hearing this, Griselda becomes furious, saying that they need to rescue them immediately. But suddenly, Merle shouts for them to wait. She informs them that the caravan Sasha mentioned must be from Edgar, and taking action without a plan would be very risky. The vampire then places her hands on Merle's shoulders and calmly says that she doesn't need to worry because Kai is someone she can truly trust. And as a former demon lord, she guarantees that she will save her sister and everyone else. This excites Merle, and she asks if that is true. However, she soon stops to think better and wonders what Griselda meant by a former demon lord. Shocked, Merle asks if this is really Griselda, but the vampire ignores her and simply tells Kai that they need to rescue the demons quickly. He confirms, emphasizing that they will rescue all those who are imprisoned, and this is enough to calm Griselda and Merle. However, he says that before that, he starts using powers on Griselda, saying that he will share the skill with her as well. Griselda, receiving the skill, says that it will be really useful. After the procedure, Kai affirms to himself that they are finally ready to face the Supreme Mage. Observing the caravan, he reflects that to save Colette, he will need allies, and it will be good to help all those enslaved demons, as he can free the oppressed and make them strong allies. Meanwhile, pulling the caravan, a young demon is barely holding on, and one of the men orders her to speed up, smiling and belittling the poor slave who can barely stay on her feet. That's all, folks. If you enjoy the video, subscribe and hit the bell. Thanks.